I was asked to make a video on how I block my socks. When I make a pair of socks, I really like to have them washed, dried, and then blocked, especially the first time. It really helps with the stitches to settle in. When you're knitting on the circular sock machine, you're going to have a weight stack pulling on the sock. So it's going to be a little bit stretched out of shape. By washing it and drying it, it's going to allow the stitches to settle in to where they really want to be. And it's pretty much going to be that size from there on every time you wash it. I do put mine in the dryer because that's what's going to happen. I like superwash wools. It's just my preference. And when I make these socks and give them to a recipient, I don't want them to worry about accidentally getting them into a dryer and ruining them. So that's my preference, and this is what I do. So the first time I do wash them and I place them in a warm dryer. If you are making these socks to sell, some states specify that you cannot wash a new item. If it's been washed and dried, it is no longer new, it is used. However, you can still pre-shrink a sock ready for sale. What you do is you wet it and then dry it. You're not washing it, you're not adding any soap or detergent, you're merely wetting it, putting it in the dryer and allowing it to dry. That way, nothing has changed in the sock other than to allow the stitches to settle in. It's up to you whether or not you'd like to do that, but that's what I would do. I prefer these metal sock blockers. I received these a number of years ago and I am so sorry, but I do not know the source. I do, however, believe they're readily available from many knit places, many stores. I only had the one set. They're a size medium, which is approximately a lady's size medium. A size large would fit a man's size medium. However, I have the one size. I did like them. I like that they're hollow. It allows the air to go through. I will hang them up outside. They dry very quickly that way. Some people prefer a wooden one. It has a lot more area in the center. Many of them have holes drilled in the wood. That's a fantastic idea. It also allows the air to flow through so that they'll dry quicker. The metal ones are ideal for me because I also use them to block my socks, and that's what I'm going to show you today. Since I only had the one pair, it would be quite expensive to buy many pairs of blockers in order to do all of my socks. What I did was I took a coat hanger. I stretched it out so that it was a circle, and starting with the toe, I just shaped it so that it was more or less the same size as my metal sock blocker. So if I lay it on top, you'll see it's pretty much identical in size and shape. The only difference up here is that it's a little bit shorter. That is not an issue. Please feel free to make your own. I'm not going to show that here in this video how I did it. Perhaps later I can make a video showing that. If you are making your own, make sure that you have the hook all in the same direction. That way when you're hanging them up to dry, they're going to face in the same direction. Just a little thing I wanted to point out. So after I've washed and dried my socks, I'm going to block them. Here's one that's been used and worn. It was washed and just laid onto a rack on a clothesline just to dry flat like this. This one was dried on a sock blocker. You'll notice the top is a little ruffly. What happened there was that I put it into the sock blocker and the sock was a little bit taller than the blocker. That's not an issue. Here is a sock that I dried on the blocker. Sometimes I'll take them out of the dryer and just throw them onto a blocker and let them dry that way. This one dried. It has the full length. The foot is the same size, so it's ready to go. If I was doing this to sell, I wouldn't have to do anything further to that. I would just put it on the blocker and let it dry. But like I said, I don't like to air dry them the first time. The first time I like to throw them into the dryer so that they'll settle in. Any shrinking is going to be done ahead of time. So this sock was in the dryer. It came out. You can see it's not quite smooth. Yours may be a little more wrinkly. It's not an issue. I'm going to show you how we'll go ahead and block that today. I'm going to use the shorter one to give you a really good idea of how you can make things work. This is a man's medium sock. So once I put it on the blocker, it's actually going to be a little bit longer than what I need. Or sorry, the blocker will be a little shorter than the sock, but I'll show you how to work around that. I have an iron and it's set on a wool setting. Because I am ironing on wool, that's perfect. However, the socks that I make have nylon in the yarn. If I were to place this hot iron onto this sock with the nylon in it, it would melt the nylon. It would stick to the sole of the iron and it really would make a mess. Ask me how I know. I've done it before. What I do is I get a pressing cloth, basically just a piece of 100% cotton. Quilting cotton weight, average weight, it doesn't matter. As long as it's 100% cotton, that way you're not going to worry about the pressing cloth melting or sticking or anything like that. So what I do is I will put the sock onto the blocker. Just slide it in. And here we go. The first thing I notice is that really this is actually a bit of a small size man, but you can see that I do have a little bit excess fabric here on the toe. That's not an issue. All I do is I gently slide it up a little bit so that the toe is nice and round. You can hold it, make sure you smooth out all of the wrinkles. You don't want to pull it tight. You don't want to stretch it because that's not going to give you an accurate sizing, and it's going to look disproportionate if you don't get the second sock exactly the same. So I feel for the seam. If you can see it right here, this is where the decreases were, and on the other side they'll be an identical. So I just feel with my fingers to make sure that they're lined up. You could also do that with any patterning. You can see I have some ribbing here, some ribbing there. It's not quite centered, so you just want to move it a little bit and make sure the sock is centered on the blocker. So what we'll do is we're going to do the toe first. So I make sure it's smooth. I place my pressing cloth on top, and I like to use steam. I think it helps to set it. And I place my iron on, and I give it a shot. That is actually pressing. Pressing is just an up and down motion. I'm going to turn off the steam because it's already had a shot. It doesn't need more. If I were ironing, ironing is the side-to-side movement. You don't want to iron directly onto a sock because the side-to-side movement could stretch the knitting and make it out of shape. You want to just press up and down. I use the steam to give it a little shot so that it really gets into the knitting. So as you can see, it's shaped it nicely. Because my metal blockers are hollow, it'll actually go through to the other side. You don't really need to do both sides. Unless you have a few wrinkles on the back side, then you may want to smooth them out and press it. So now the toe is done. I need to go to the heel. If you can see, the heel is definitely too long. So I'll just take the sock and I'll gently slide it forward. So now the heel is in position. I smooth it out. I put on my pressing cloth. I make sure there's no big wrinkles underneath, and then I just give it a press with a shot of steam. I'll then move the iron over and do the same with the rest of the foot. The toe has already been shaped, but this will help to press the foot. You can actually see the shape of the sock underneath the pressing cloth. You can then go up and press the ankle portion. Give it a little shot of steam. Once you're done, turn it over and see how the other side is. There's no big wrinkles here. It feels quite warm, so I know that it has all of the heat on the other side. Now, what do we do with this? We do the same thing that we did previously. I hold the sock and I'm just going to pull the blocker out a little bit. I don't want to stretch what I've already done, so I'm just going to be gentle with it. The sock is still a bit damp, and because it's damp, it's going to be able to stretch a little bit. So you'll notice that the heel is right here. I'm just going to ignore it. You could pull it up a little bit so it doesn't stretch, but I've already pressed that part when I did the heel, so I'm not going to do it again. I pull the sock down so that it's at the top of the blocker, and that is where I'm going to press. I put the pressing cloth on, and then I give it a little shot of steam. I prefer to turn my steam off and just give it a shot by hand. I have a little bit more control. Pardon my camera, it's shaking a little bit. It's just connected to my ironing board, so as I'm moving, so is it. The other side, I can feel that it's warm. It has a shot. So now I can take out my sock blocker. When I take out my sock blocker, I'll lay the sock flat. You can see how I don't have a bump here. That's why I was careful when I did the heel portion. You want to give it a press so that it'll come up to here. That way you'll get a nice ankle shape. You've got the instep shape. So you're going to press all that. Then you're going to slide the blocker up and just get the top cuff that you missed. So that's it. That's all there is to pressing. You could give it another shot if you like, or you don't have to, and then you can just set it aside and let it dry. It is going to be a little bit damp, but that will help the stitches to set. Here's the other sock. It's Buddy. That was out of the wash. You can see it's wrinkled. It's not quite as nicely shaped. You can see the ribbing on the cuff at the top, how it pulled in. However, this will press it open. It's still going to be a little snugger, a little more snug at the top, but this looks nice for presentation. So you can see the difference that a light pressing will make. That's all there is to it. So how do I package them for selling? Well, there's more than one way to do that. Here's one sock that's already been pressed. It's nice, it's tidy. One way is to simply fold it in half. Take the mate. Let's get it off this blocker here. Put them together. Fold them in half at the heel. That's all there is to that. Some people will buy the little hangers that go underneath. You can put a band around here. Another thing you can do is you can save the ball band from the yarn. Some ball bands are a little smaller than others, and if you notice, it doesn't quite fit. It's a little big. What you can do is, instead of just going in half, you can take it and fold it into a quarter. Which way should we go? I would fold it so that the cuff of the sock is up, like this. It makes it quite a bit thicker, and now it's going to nicely slip into the ball band. If you were making it for a friend or just a family member, you could easily just do it this way. By doing it this way, the recipient already has the information on how to care for it, the washing instructions. This is just a very, very simple way of doing it. If you're going to do it commercially, you can make your own bands with whatever information you like, and you can make them smaller to fit the sock. Another way to fold them, and this is all a personal preference, is to fold them in half this way. You'll open the toes, flatten them out, but when you get to the heel, it has a bit of a bump. So just fold it down until it's flat. Do the same with the other sock. Fold it flat, pull the heel down, and now you're going to fold them just on the other side of all that bulk. You want to have the bottom sock a little bit longer where it's sitting than the top, so that when you fold it over, the ends meet perfectly. That's just another way of folding them. And the heel is tucked in, so there's no little crooked bump when you fold them in half. When you take a sock and you fold it in half, you can see that the bottom is at a diagonal. If you want the bottom to be straight, you could simply do it this way. But when I fold mine the extra time and throw a ball band on, you're not necessarily going to notice the angle. That's all a personal preference. You don't have to fold them in half. You could take and you could fold them into thirds. So bring it up to about the end of the heel, where the heel is folded over, and then fold it again. There's one, fold it into thirds. This is where the heel has been folded over, but it makes a nice edge. If you're going to put a ball band on, you won't see that. Again, you could just use the packaged ball band. You could gently open it up. Fold it over a little further, and then tape it to fit. Or, like I said, make your own packaged ball band. So that's how I block my socks. Oh, I was going to show you this sock. You can see how it was on the blocker. I don't really have to do much pressing on the other one. However, I might want to if I was putting it to sale or if I was going to gift it to someone. I'll use the short blocker. Again, slide the sock into the blocker. You can see this tail, you can see that this toe is a little bit more wrinkly. So smooth it out, use your hands, smooth it out, hold it in place, put your pressing cloth on top, and then just lightly press it. You don't need a lot of pressure. Give it a shot of steam. Don't go off of the cotton. You don't want to melt the sock or get all that sticky business on your iron. That was quick and easy. The other side feels smooth, there's no wrinkles. This heel actually lined up. So I don't need to shimmy the sock down to get it. It's ready. I will put this on my pressing cloth and give it a quick iron. So I am ironing it now because, as you see, the pressing cloth is not moving. You do not want to stretch the yarn. But like the other sock, the top is a little bit wonky looking. Pull the sock down and simply press the top. I'm not going to press the bottom. It's already been done. Give it a nice little shot of steam. and that's it. When I take it off, you can see the difference. It's not wonky anymore. It's nice, it's smooth. Give it an extra little press. One thing I tend to do for extra measure is when I've pressed a sock, I will leave it on the sock blocker and then do the second one. That way it gives it a little chance to cool down. Remember, it's going to be warm, it's damp, so you want it to dry out before you package it. Either folding it in half, half again, or flattening out the heel. You could put it up or down, it doesn't matter. Folding it in thirds. How you fold it depends on how you want to package it. There's no right or wrong way. It all depends on how you prefer to do it. Easy peasy.